So first and foremost, you started by saying, I feel like it's really important that we know what you think like, because a big problem is that people are thinking, are feeling, and they're not really thinking anymore.
I think men feeling that they need to dominate spaces physically and speaking over women, interrupting women, belittling them.
Yeah.
You see how good I'm being?
I mean, you can...
So just a question. So you just said when men interrupt and dominate spaces. Were you a toxic feminist when you interrupted me when I was on stage?
No, I was interrupting something.
I'm just asking.
I fundamentally don't believe
Can I ask a question? Do you think we live in a patriarchy?
Yes.
Why do women live longer than men? Why are men more likely to commit suicide? Why do women compose 50+% of college
Why do we
graduates?
control 89% of the spending power within households if men are the ones that are going out and making all of the money? You're such a perfect reason for why I could never be a feminist, because everything that I just couldn't. It's like, you don't really know why you're calling it toxic. You did the exact same thing, but you decided that when men interrupt, it's because you're a woman. But you decided that when you interrupt, it's just because you had a differing opinion.
I just so deeply object to a lot of what you're saying, but at the root, I feel like there's a clear misunderstanding about the core values of feminism. You're saying that it's bitter women, or that it's not allowing men to be men anymore, or demonizing masculinity. I really don't agree with. I don't think there's any value in kind of glorifying toxic masculinity that we have now, with making it seem as though being a violent man or anything like that is appropriate. I think it's really damaging.
Would you be able to phrase it as a question? Sorry for the panel.
Oh, okay.
I can say a couple of things back and we can have a discussion about this. So first and foremost, you started by saying, I feel like it's really important that we know what you think like, because a big problem is that people are thinking, are feeling, and they're not really thinking anymore. Secondly, you brought up toxic masculinity. I believe toxic masculinity exists, but it exists inside of radicalized feminists, right? Where they're thinking that they should be able to own and control society because they're marching in the street with pussy hats and saying that they demand justice for a free and fair election, like they did with Donald J. Trump. I don't like this trend where we're trying to turn men, and you call it, masculinity is masculinity. I like masculinity. Masculinity is actually the one thing that saved me in life. Today, that archetype of what a man is being taught that there's something wrong with it, that there's something that's implicitly violent about being a man, and that's wrong. And I think the people that are harmed the most by it, by the way, are women. Women are harmed the most. When you break down men and strong fathers, we are the ones that suffer the most.
I would just say, I mean, there's a lot of things to address there, but to begin with, what you say about having a strong grandfather, a male figure, if you're saying that you've internalized these things, these messages that he taught you, then surely there's nothing inherently masculine about those qualities. I mean, I don't understand how you're defining masculinity.
I don't understand how you're defining it.
Yeah,
why don't you define it?
Why don't you define it?
Because you're the one that thinks, like, so you should define what masculinity means to you.
Well, I mean, it depends. I would say masculinity now, obviously, just being a social construct, literally nothing more than a set of expectations that are placed on someone.
So then how can you call it, if it's a social construct, how can you call it toxic?
I think men feeling that they need to dominate spaces physically and speaking over women, interrupting women, belittling them.
Yeah.
Do you see how good I'm being?
I mean, you can...
So just a question. So you just said when men interrupt and dominate spaces. Were you a toxic feminist when you interrupted me when I was on stage?
No, I was interrupting something.
I'm just asking.
I fundamentally don't believe it.
But I'm just asking because you're saying that somebody interrupting someone is now a symbol of toxic masculinity. You just interrupted me on stage, so are you a toxic feminist?
Somehow these behaviors that both genders can engage in are uniquely masculine. They're toxically masculine. Interrupting people, that's toxic masculinity. Women don't have that ability to interrupt. That's not a human behavior that women have access to.
I didn't interrupt you because you're a woman. I interrupted you because I didn't believe what you were saying. It's not that I didn't believe.
But maybe that's what men do sometimes. Is it possible that men sometimes interrupt because they disagree with what women are saying and not because they're toxic masculinity in the air? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Is that you're coming up with terms and sometimes people just interrupt. I'm fine with the fact that you interrupted me. It happens all the time, and I'm not holding that against you. I'm just using it to prove a point that you created an entire concept around when men interrupt women, but you literally just interrupted me, and you don't identify as yourself as a toxic feminist.
No, because I interrupted you on the basis that I didn't agree with the politics you're espousing, both of you.
Well, maybe men disagree with what you're saying.
Because you're a woman. The fact that you're a woman is completely irrelevant to me.
But maybe it's irrelevant to men as well when they interrupt people. Men interrupt other men interrupt women. Or society.
The culture of men's voices being valued more than women.
What is your metric for this?
Give us one piece of data.
Yeah,
one.
like a data.
Any piece of data.
You can't just say there's a culture of men interrupting women. What's your data point for this?
Any kind of interpretivist data where you're looking at interactions, at dynamics, you can see. I mean, what do you want me to say? Like a
fact?
Yeah.
Any fact?
Any kind of...
How about the stuff on the
A recent huge cultural example, maybe?
So can I ask a question? Do you think we live in a patriarchy?
Yes.
Why do women live longer than men? Why are men more likely to commit suicide? Why do women compose 50+% of college graduates?
Why do we control 89% of the spending power within households if men are the ones that are going out and making all of the money, as we like to say?
responsibility of caring for the house and the children.
So it's a
they're not
patriarchy that
working.
allows women a lot of responsibility?
Within a household, within a certain sphere, not a powerful one. The household is not
Then
a
why are
powerful
majority of
sphere.
business startups women, majority of master's degrees and majority of
And
doctorate
also,
degrees
can
in
I
the
say
States?
the thing about women living longer, married women live the least long. Unmarried women live longest because they do not have the responsibilities, the emotional labour of being
Marriage
with a
is
man.
emotional labour.
Pardon?
Marriage is emotional labour for women, and that's
That's a great point.
Well, no, because the way that women support men, like, it's a huge
But we
part.
live in a
They support
patriarchy.
each
I'm
other.
not saying, no, they don't. No, they don't. I'm talking
But so
about...
this is sort of, I appreciate the discussion we're having. But this is, you're such a perfect reason for why I
You're all
could never be a
emotion.
feminist,
No
because
facts.
everything that I just couldn't. It's like, you don't really know why you're calling it toxic. You did the
No,
exact
I
same
do.
thing,
I
but
know
you decided that
exactly
when
why
men
I call it
interrupt, it's
toxic.
because you're a woman. But you decided that when
it's
you
not.
interrupt, it's just because you had a differing
You asked
opinion.
me for one example.
I know,
toxic
and then you
masculinity,
say
and
stuff
I
about
told
the
you
marriage
what
and breakdown as an emotional labor. There are women, just so you know, that aspire to get married and have children and stay at home and raise
That's
good
okay.
children, and
I
that's
agree.
okay. So, but why are you not making it seem like that puts us in a position that's less than man? Want to create a society? Be the person that raises every individual that's in society. Feminism has made it seem like there's something wrong with being a mother, that there's something wrong with being a wife, and everything that you just said is that. You have. It's not emotional labor. I want to have children. I want to raise my children. I don't want to be the CEO of a company and not have a husband. That's not what I aspire to, and that's why feminism is having a hard time with a lot of women who are realizing that when they give up everything that they naturally want in life to be a feminist, they end up miserable and alone.
No, I'm not...
No, I'm not. Please don't tell me that I'm sitting here because
I can't
I'm
wait to
standing.
talk to you.
I'm sitting here because I worked hard.
you'll be
I was
next.
personally responsible. I'm not sitting here because of feminism. No, I am not sitting here because of any feminist.
Well,
trust me.
So can I ask? Can a man
Yeah, but
ask a question?
feminism is supposed to be about choice, and what radical feminism is actually doing is taking away that choice and making women feel
not.
bad
It's-
about wanting to maybe be the traditional view of what a woman is. There's nothing wrong with having a choice to do both. I don't really understand your point.
No, I agree. Feminism isn't trying to destroy the family. Women can happily be mothers, and they can.
You just said it's
be
emotional
wives.
labour to be married.
It is in some way. There is an imbalance where men.
It's
are going,
not. I don't feel that way. So does that make which one of us is less of a woman?
Everything is emotional labor. Everything is always against women. They lack complete agency. If not for everyone else, women would be perfect. That's her worldview.
We have different opinions.
What do you mean? Which of us is less?
You're saying that it is, and I'm saying that it's not. We have a differing opinion, and the reason why I don't like feminism is because it basically tells us that we have to feel this way,
No, it
that we have to
doesn't.
feel
No, it
bitter
doesn't.
towards men,
It's
towards
just
husbands,
to
towards
be
marriage,
aware of
towards
your
children,
choices.
and that's why I'm trying to let you know the feminist movement is considered very radicalized because there are many women, especially conservative women, who just don't feel that way. We don't feel burdened by children and marriage.
Can I give you some facts though to support this? No, you don't want to hear from a man. Okay. Wait, see how things get really dangerous and you start to generalize men and women all of a sudden, like you did?
I just wanted to continue the conversation
ahead.
that I was
Okay, you
having
can
with
talk to
Candace. Without you
We'll
jumping
talk
in.
about facts later. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
I understand that some women want a family and they want to be mothers. I completely respect that. All feminism is doing is telling you that you do have a choice. And I don't believe radical feminism is pushing women into hating the family. It's just suggesting that maybe this doesn't have to be your lot. And some women have internalized values that make them think that this is what they want when really they might not.
So you can
I
be
really
feminist.
do want a husband and children one day.
Okay,
So,
that's
but
fine,
what
and I
I'm saying to you is the
respect
reason
that.
why I don't like feminism is because feminists think feminism is mandatory. The second you find out that a girl doesn't identify as a feminist, you're up here and you're asking a bunch of questions. I don't like the feminist movement. I think it's become very toxic and very hostile towards men. If you believed in the equality that men and that women should be able to think whatever we wanted, you wouldn't be debating me right now. You'd say, well, more power to you because you'd be a true feminist, but you're not. Masculinity is a component of being a man. I think a society needs and thrives on strong men. There's never been a society without strong men. There's never been a society without strong men. And because I support that, you're upset and you're calling bullshit. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with strong men? Why does that make you upset?
I just think that the values, you referenced the Gillette advert, all it was saying was, the message was fundamentally just stop being violent, just...
No, it
wasn't.
No,
In your view.
Little toddlers.
There were parts
Boys will be boys. Boys tend to be reckless. They tend to punch each other and wrestle each other. That's a healthy, necessary part of the child development process. Trying to demonize that in the parental guidelines that Gillette was trying to have in a 30-second to a minute ad is toxic feminism,
That is toxic.
attacking toxic masculinity. So let me give you some examples super quick. So you say, that's not what feminism wants. The predominant viewpoint in the university now in the States and the UK is an anti-male posture, whether it be papers that literally say abolish men, whether it be books that say the problem with men. You're looking at me funny. The Huffington Post publishes at least a weekly piece that says that men should have a less powerful role in
Cancel
society.
white men.
Cancel white men is a common theme. The Me Too movement. Oh, so you agree with it? Okay.
The men have done
Wait,
a lot
can you repeat what you
historically.
just said?
They've won every single war, every freedom that we have in
Can you
society
repeat
is
what you
because of
just
men.
I said it's because white men have historically done so much shit. They're just
So
asking
you
you to
do
stop
agree
for
with
once.
anti-male posture. So your
No,
true
I
radical
don't.
feminism
I
comes
don't
out
believe it.
after 10 minutes of cross-examine. Before you said I have no problem with men. Now you said
you're
it's
saying
because
you
white
do.
men have done a lot of shit.
Yeah,
Now we get to revealing who you really are, which
that is
a
what
hateful,
feminism is.
angry person.
They just hate men. There is no other platform.
They don't hate men. They're just,
You just
there's
said-
no problem. There is no problem with analysing the actions of men in history and condemning them.
You mean like
What about all the
World
good
War II?
ones?
You're the ones
What
who
about all the
died
good
for our
ones?
freedom, so that's wrong. We can't do that.
Like defeating the
All,
Nazis?
all people, men who had invented anything that men have invented, we can't use anymore.
Slavery
So
wasn't
there's-
ended in America because
there's
women were
positives and
fighting.
negatives.
It's complete hyperbole.
What about all the good? What about all the good things? Everything that we have in society, every war that was fought and won was because of men. Do you ever think about that?
Wars are unnecessary anyway. I mean, wars
they
that we
happen,
fought
though.
and
Now
We're
won.
spiraling. Now
Yeah,
we're
and
spiraling.
But they happen,
we'll
they're
go
fought.
too. So what they won was that they started unnecessarily.
Yeah, women have
They
never
took
started
it-
wars. You know, wars have never been fought over women in this country. That never happened, Henry VIII. Right? What's the point?
Because he was an adulterer. I mean, that's a terrible example.
Do you think
Just
that,
wanted to
that
shag
women? Let me
around
ask you a
and have
question.
male
Do you
heir.
think
That's an
women can
awful
have done
example.
anything wrong, or that women can do anything wrong? Like, would you have been okay if there was like a shtick razor commercial like about toxic femininity? Would that have been okay with you?
Tell me what you think toxic femininity
Accusing
is.
men of things that never happened and
Yeah.
calling it sexual
Like what?
assault? Like Brett Kavanaugh?
He is an awful man. And
He's a what? He's an
he's
honorable
awful man. An
Hon-
awful
Honorable?
man. I said awful.
Prove it.
What?
We have facts. Name one fact of anything awful he's ever done.
He someone.
Because she said
Uh,
so.
yeah, show
wait,
me
hold
some
on.
evidence.
Because she said
That
so.
wasn't even a trial in a court. It was in front of a.
So why isn't there a trial in the court? Why didn't she go file it?
Why didn't she file a police report?
Because
She
there was
can't
no
remember
evidence.
Date, time, place, no witnesses.
We have this culture, this toxic culture where women are
The same culture these
Okay.
people like Jussie Smollett then faking a hoax because you have to be
Bingo.
a victim. No, you can't then sit here and say that without facts that you can say he's a racist, but then Jussie Smollett can get away with saying there was people shouting this is Trump country, we're going to beat you up without facts. You either have facts for both or you can't just leave them.
Why did you feel necessary to do that?
Can
Because
I
he
ask
wants to
you-
start a race war.
Evident that-
Absolute insanity with this lady. The complete disregard for basic logic and common sense. The fact that she could just accuse a person of doing something so heinous with no evidence is insane.